Good morning, Honorable Minister. Good morning. Good morning, DG and DE. Good morning, other officials from the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Good morning, members of the Presidential Communication Team. Good morning, my colleagues, distinguished members of the fourth state of the realm. One of the overall aspirations of the Security, Economy and Anti-Corruption SEA agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari administration is job creation and engendering the enabling environment for employment generation. This will ultimately boost economic activities all around the country. Among other strides adopted by the administration to realize this objective, the Special Public Works Program resonates loudly. This is because it is designed to cater for as many as 774,000 Nigerians all around the nation. Some Nigerians, however, have expressed some reservations about this program, about its viability, and about its implementation. This morning, in the presence of representatives of local and international media gathered here, and in continuation of the special briefings coordinated by the Presidential Communication Team, the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, Mr. Festus Keyamo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, who is the driving force behind this special public works scheme, will expatiate about its implementation. He will also use this opportunity to tell us about some industrial disputes that the ministry has been settling for us. Honorable Minister, my pleasure to call you. You have to step here, speak for about 10 minutes. You take our pleasure. And that will be it.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Well, it's my pleasure to have this opportunity to brief you and give you an update on the implementation of the Special Public Works Program and other related issues concerning my mandates. Well, like you must have heard from various interviews we've granted before, but we'll repeat them here. The Special Public Works Program is a program that is actually not new in terms in the world of work. It's a program that the ILO has actually supported and approved many years ago in different parts of the world before we decided to design something for ourselves here. Something like it. It was a program that was introduced in the early 19th century during the periods of great drought. In countries where the main means of subsistence was agriculture, there were periods of drought where the farmers could not go to the farm and could not harvest their produce and then feed themselves. So governments of those days, during the time of also this, So when we wanted to introduce it here, the president did a pilot scheme because he thought perhaps we needed to test run it to see whether it can apply here. So the first thing the president approved was that we should do 8 states at that time. And not all the local governments, just five local governments in 8 states originally. That was in 2019, late 2019, when I just became minister. So we started the implementation in January 2020 in 8 states. If I remember them very well: Jigawa, Edo, Ebonyi. So I can't remember them off by heart. And we just started 1 month of the implementation when COVID struck. So we could not actually complete it at that time. The federal government only released 1 month stipends at that time to pay those in those 8 states. So when there was a lockdown at that time and small businesses suffered, so many people could not, especially those who depend on daily pay. The people that were worst hit by the COVID lockdown was the people who go out daily. And I'm sure you know them. They call them the laborers. If you go to the highway now, along any of these highways in Abuja, Yanya and all that, go there every 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, as you're coming to work or coming to the city, you will see them by the side of the road with shovels and all that. They just wait for anybody to come and engage them for any sites. And at the end of that day, you must give them something to take home. Those who carry concrete too at building sites, you must pay them at the end of that day because they survive on daily pay. Don't wait for even week or end of the week or end of the month. There are people like that in this country, and we must realize that, not we that at times rely on monthly pay or we're businessmen. So the president was very concerned about this kind of people. He said, look, this lockdown, if people don't receive money daily, there will be a revolution. We need to quickly react and find them something. So he said, look, this pilot scheme, expand it. Let it cover all the states and all the local governments now, quickly. It was a quick response by the president. Let it cover all the states, all the local governments. And it was so audacious. The president said 1,000 per local government. Not 500, not 100 people per local government. 1,000 persons per local government. It was meant to be so, it is still meant to be very, expansive like that. So, well, since it was the first time that this kind of huge program involving so many persons to be executed within a short time was introduced. It has never been like that in history. Just a short time, 704,000 persons must be reached. We now said, okay, what do we do? And then, again, we had to ensure too that the design of the program was maintained. And what is that design? The 1,000 persons should ordinarily be resident within those local governments. The 1,000 persons. So that we will have an even spread in respect of the distribution of the money. It's huge funds from public purse, very huge funds. But it is going directly to the people. At the same time as you maintain infrastructure, you build infrastructure in Nigeria, you build railroads. You must also remember, like we have come to know it, the stomach infrastructure. You must balance both. So people should not will not be waiting forever and die until the big things happen. The small things should be happening before the big things happen. So the president said, okay, we should ensure that the spread is achieved, that, so that the money goes to every nook and cranny of the country. But at the same time, the president said, look, ensure that everybody is paid by bank accounts and BVN, so that it will not be those kind of cash we used to pay, and it is susceptible to fraud. But once you pay through bank accounts and through BVNs, you can have an audit trail of every single payment. So there will be zero fraud, not even 1% margin of error. Because every single payment can be audited and traced to a particular person who has a BVN, a living person. There won't be any ghosts. So it was huge, but we set out to do it. First was the selection process. We wanted to ensure that we localize the selection process so that we won't sit down here in Abuja and pretend to know 1,000 persons in Karanamoda up north or Owode, Oniri in south or in the west, or one local government in the east. We can't be here in Abuja. So we said, okay, the local people should be involved in selection of the participants. Localize it so that they know themselves. And where the institutions that can easily identify these people who need this money very well within their locality are the churches. We brought in the churches. The mosque, we brought in the mosque. The market women leader, we brought in the market women leaders. The National Union of Road Transport Workers, those boys, they call it the garage boys in South in Warri, we brought them in. Then we brought in politicians too, of course, who can also know that. But we mix them up so that it won't look like programs in past governments, they will just hand it over and give it only to politicians. So we brought in a mix of all of this for civil society too. Well, the selection committees to select these people. There were some resistance to say, look, politicians should just handle it alone. But I stood my ground. I said, no, let's a multi-sectorial committee. This committee must be multi-sectorial so that people who are not following politicians should also have access to the program, right? So we did that, and then the process went on. The pro-selection went on for some time. It was not as easy as we thought, because 1,000 persons per local government is a huge number. So, and then after selecting them, we now had the task of going to make sure they open accounts so that we don't go and deploy cash to the states and say start paying. That would have been a mess. It would have been a mess. So we said, go and all these people you have selected, after the selection went on for 3 months and all that, we said, now the real big star, go and start opening accounts with these people. At that point we were questioned, and I want you to please understand why particularly I designed it this way. I went back to Mr. President and said, Mr. President, give me approval to use select banks to register these people. Let me select them and then register them afresh. He asked why. I said, look, the reason is simply this. If we say once we collect 1,000 persons and bring their names and their existing account numbers, which is the design of every other program, I'm not condemning others, but because this one has a unique feature of 1,000 persons per local government. If you say go and bring accounts as you like, so that it would have made our job easy, really. Lazy way of approaching it. It would mean that somebody will bring 100 names, one of the maybe people we selected, people we identified to select persons. They will bring 100 names for, say, one local government in Abia State. I'll give you an example. With their bank account number, they will say this is for Bende local government, for example. But actually, those 100 people we have received and their bank account numbers, they will be living in Lagos State. No way to know. They will be living in Lagos, not Abia. And on and on. You now have a situation where, because people have more access to banks in urban areas, you will just defeat the whole purpose of this program. Most of the 7,000 persons will now be concentrated in the cities. Because most of the rural people, they don't even have bank accounts, they don't have, and all that. So that was a clever thing we did to say, to ensure that ordinarily, you will have 98% success if you register them afresh. We now engage these banks and made an agreement with them. We gave them the list per local government, and told them to tell their branches. They now forwarded this list to the branches. There are various branches across the country. This is banks, 6 or 7 of them, yes, 7 of them. And directed the participants to go to those local branches. We gave them the addresses. UBA for social and so local government in number 71 Market Road. Go there and register. So the banks were up and doing with us. So at the end of the day, we achieved that fair distribution. We ensured, because it's unlikely that people in one state because of the 60,000 they will achieve at the end of the day, will now travel. It's very unlikely. Travel to go and register in another state and then go back again to the city. It's very unlikely. So in most of the, we calculated that it is actually the locals there that will go to those branches to register. We calculated that 95%, success will achieve it to make sure they are resident there. Maybe with a 5% margin of error. I hope you understand. That's why we select, so that people should understand why we decided on that. When people say, why don't you just bring their accounts? Why didn't they just bring the accounts that they had before? In any case, we also reasoned that most of these people we are targeting, because no government had targeted this kind of people in a large way for a long time. People who are daily pay earners, they call them itinerant workers, itinerant. They don't have a place they go every morning to say, this is my work. Today they are in East, tomorrow they are in the north of Abuja, tomorrow they find them another site in the south of Abuja. Itinerant workers. They call them itinerant, the world of work calls them itinerant workers. Most of them, this kind of category of people, they don't have bank accounts. They don't. And yet we needed to pay them, and we didn't want to pay them cash. So we brought so many people into the financial nets by this program. We brought so many people into the banking nets in this country. So having done that, all of these delayed the kickoff. And we eventually started in January, but it was also staggered because some states did not start on February, some March, depending on their local circumstances. But we started off in January. Now, we have a fair distribution of each local government and the projects we are undertaking in each of the local governments. As I speak with you, we're about to start running programs on radio and TV in the next 1 or 2 weeks. We paid for airtime to show Nigerians pictorials from across the country. We had people across the country bringing in pictorials as the work was going on. So we are going to show pictorials. You're going to see them on television in the next 2 weeks, on radio too. We interview live persons as we're working. We showed public sites as they were before, and we showed them after the work in many local governments. We had challenges in areas that have insurgency. Also some areas in the country recently that had security challenges. We had some of those challenges, so that is a fact. But we still managed to do a few things, and we'll see pictorials from those places. So we now told the bank. Now the design of payments was this, which is what we are coming to, and the recent maybe seeming complaint you heard. The design is that for payment, the ND has its accounts in central bank. So the Ministry of Finance releases the monies to the ND account in the central bank, because government institutions, they don't have accounts in private bank again. So the money was never in any private bank. Take note, nobody kept any money anywhere. It's in the central bank, it's with government's account. The moment the banks registered the persons, they passed it on to the NDE to say, look, these 1,000 names you gave us, we have opened accounts for them. These are the accounts. The NDE, in turn, we pass the instruction to the accountant general and say, from those our accounts, pay these people now. So they release the money straight from the central bank into the accounts in the banks. Individual, not bulk, into those individual accounts, 20,000 to the 1 account, direct from central bank. That is the design for payments. Now, when the account numbers came back to us, and we wanted to pass it on to central bank, we did our own checks. And then we discovered that many persons also wanted to defraud the federal government. And that was a good thing we decided on the BVN. After a check of all the names, before we authorized payments, and payments would have started in January. We discovered that you had a situation where 5 different names on the list of a local government, we have one BVN account appearing in those 5 different names. Because most of these people in the localities, they don't understand how BVN works. So they went ahead and opened different accounts with different names, hoping to receive, that person will receive, for example, 100,000 naira per month, 5 different accounts. Instead of 60,000, he will receive 300,000 for 3 months and deprive other Nigerians of the stipends. We now discovered so many of such in the register they brought us. So we quickly halted payments. We didn't start in January, which we would have started. We stopped and said, look, the banks, you have not finished your job. You just sent names to us like that. Go back and clean up these registers, clean them up. Ensure you eliminate all of these errors and we'll check them again. At that point, for some of us, for me, I was a former prosecutor in the FCC for 15 years. Now I'm in government. I don't want to fall into the same error for which I was prosecuting people. Any program I run must be fraud-free. The integrity of the process was more important to me than making people happy on time to say pay them, pay them, pay them, and everybody jubilating. And then you see all kinds of gaps. I'm sorry, I said it in the extreme, I was prepared to return the entire money to federal government. Let me be accused of not payment than fraud. You can't charge me for non-payments now. So it's better I don't pay than I pay and there is fraud. So at that point I said no, go back. So it took another rigorous process of around 1 month or 2 months. They check and eliminate. That time people were crying already, we have not received payments. I said don't listen to them. It is our own integrity that is at stake here. They can cry to high heavens, I'm sorry, I apologize, but we must do this before we pay. That's why there were these cries of non-payment. Eventually we got it right in March or April, but in batches. So they couldn't take all at once, they were clarifying them in batches. So UBA, for example, will clear 20,000 persons and say, pay these ones now, these ones are cleared. We are working on the others. Pay this one, 10,000 more. Fidelity, pay. We have cleared 30,000 names. These ones are pure. Okay, now, pay them. So started paying in batches. So that's what happened, and that was why the seeming delay in payments. But guess what? It also affected the numbers we needed to also engage and pay, because those people now had blocked the register for other genuine Nigerians who would have wanted to register for the program. So there were many complaints of people who wanted to register. They said it was already filled up and all that. But then we didn't want to start doing late registration. So for some local government that already had 1,000 persons on the register, we said, okay, we have completed 1,000 there. By the time the work started and we started eliminating and checking like that, some now dropped to 800. Some dropped to 700 and something. I hope you understand. Because we now started having gaps. After the cleaning up of the bank registers, the account, we started having gaps. It was dropping. Because of this elimination of double, triple registration, multiple registration. So we began to have an average of 700 per local government, 800 per local government, as the case may be. But then the work had started, but we started paying. As at last week, when the complaints became so much, we called the banks to a meeting last week and said, why are you delaying in giving us the verified accounts? Because at the point the banks thought the thing was so huge for them, they were also slowing down. But we said, unless you give us verified accounts, we will not pay. The existing ones you brought before were filled. Just verify them very well, eliminate before we pay. So the banks began to delay. So last week, I'm sure you saw the communique we passed around. Was it last week or this week? Yeah? Last week, that we met the banks. No, we met the banks on Monday. So on Monday. We met the banks on Monday this week. So I'm sure you saw the resolution we reached with the banks. We signed each and every one of them. We now said, look, Some of these banks that were so slow in registering people, between the 6 or 7 banks, they cut out catchment areas for themselves. They say, UBA, they met and said, UBA, you take only this local government. Fidelity will take this local government. And many of them could not meet up with those people there in those local governments. So we now said, look, now, any of these branches you see in any of these banks, so long as you are a participant, they will go there and they will register. So we made the list available in that local government to all the banks. After all, you cannot do double BVN. If you go and register at Fidelity and UBA, your BVN will seek you out since you have BVN. So that's what we are doing now, to shore up those gaps now, those gaps we have, to shore them up and to ensure that most of the accounts are verified and we pay them. So just to give you a report, as of this morning, that's the latest as of this morning, we have moved from where we were on Monday. We actually started paying 3 months now. So some people received, because they have gone far, some have finished their work, so we started paying 40,000 too, in addition to the 20,000 we paid earlier. So we are now paying bulk 2 months at the same time, at once. So this morning, by this morning now, or yesterday, so many people have received their 40,000 who had received 20 before. Those who had not received before, who had finished their work, they are paying them 60,000 direct now. Not just 20,000, they are paying 60,000 bulk. We started paying that now. Bulk 60,000. So you will hear jubilation across the country as at this morning. You know, when I hear some of the journalists laugh, you know, some of you, we are rich. This 60,000 will save so many lives across the country. I'm telling you. A grinding machine, I just discovered a grinding machine to grind pepper. It's about 45,000 or 40,000. Somebody just told me the amount recently. I said, what? Some women, and I begged my people when they were selected, I said, give women this money more. Men will go and drink ogogoro and palm wine with this money. Women are caregivers. They will manage this money well. They will put the grinding machine, for instance, there. Every day they will be making an average of 5,000 or 10,000 naira. Grinding tomatoes, pepper, beans for people. And they will use that one to pay school fees, to feed the family. We men, yeah, we will go and drink tombo. I'm fighting for the women. Some people in villages, they go around looking for a loan of 25,000. For weeks, nobody to give them 25,000 loan to add to their small businesses. Don't forget that we're not talking of undergraduates or graduates. We are talking of itinerant workers. This is surely going to reflect the economy. It's going to be, and the way we designed it and ensured it went around to all the local governments, is going to reflect the economy from the very bottom, because they are going to add this money to their businesses. So there will be a lot of jubilation across the country for that. But then we still have some gaps to fill. Next few weeks, we should be rounding off, but we have gaps to fill. As of this morning, we have paid 413,630 persons out of the 774,000. So we've achieved about 60% of the 724,000 as of this morning. I repeat the figure, we paid 413,630 persons as of this morning. And this one, all of these people have received 60,000 naira each. And the total we have paid, this 413,000 is 24,817,800 naira. That is 24,817,800 naira. Actual money given to Nigerians and in their pockets for them to cushion the effect of post-COVID, the post-COVID effect, and the very grassroots that we're talking about. The breakdown per bank, we can make that available. Breakdown per bank, and we have a further breakdown. I think we can just do photocopies after and then give you that. In terms of the breakdown, Access Bank, 59,000, Fidelity, 83,000, UBA, 80,000, FCMB, 16,000 persons, Zenith, 59,000 persons, FCMB, and then per state. and then eventually the actual names, and that will be in a database. We can get it anytime we want, in the spirit of transparency, the names of each person paid. We can make that available at the end of the program, but all of these are available here today in terms of the breakdown for each state, each bank, each state, and what they have received so far. So we have achieved about 60% of the payments. We hope to close this gap. In a large program like this, we may not achieve the 774,000 to the last number. I hope you know that. But for me, if we achieve and pay up to 600,000 persons, or to 600 plus, we would have achieved a lot. The rest balance will return to the federal coffers. If we cannot have real people who will come and be entitled to that, real people with real identity with correct BVN. So we will not resort to paying ghosts. We will not resort to any underhand tactics of paying ghosts. We will return the balance. For those who said, oh, they struggled to enter, or they've entered, they could not pay it, and they could not be identified, wait for the next time. Luckily, the president, as part of the broader poverty reduction strategy of the federal government, this program has been approved. In the last, I think the last FEC, 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, FEC, the memo was brought by Federal Minister of Finance, Federal Minister of Finance. This is one of the various programs that the government will be implementing every year. So in fact, we have approved it. It won't be, depending on availability of funds, it will not become a bi-yearly or yearly affair every year now. So people will always wait, they will come into these nets, those who could not benefit from it this time around. But 413,000 Nigerians have been paid. That's a huge number still. So people should not say that the program has failed. It has not failed. We have achieved 60%. Before the end, we may achieve, for purpose of payment, we may ask for extension for 1 month from Mr. President to ensure that those who worked actually paid. But they must be verified before they are paid. Now, we also have a problem. Why it even came down to 413? It should have been more than 500,000. We have the breakdown of figures of accounts that rejected the money. So the money bounced back to center as they paid because of incomplete issues too. So you have the breakdown there of so when they paid, the money bounced back. It could not be credited. It bounced back. So this 413 is also not, it's more than this, and not our fault. There are accounts that have issues. You have it. Aha, yes. So we have it here, state by state. We'll make this available to them. We can make them, So we have the column for rejected monies that bounce back here. We have the column. I hope you update this to this figure as at this moment. Update it. Okay. For those who were paid yesterday, they say it took up to 24 hours to know which accounts have failed. So we need to update this. Because of the payments yesterday, to know which accounts have failed, again, to update this and, this one, to give to all of you. So you know we want all of you, we want to be as transparent as possible to know what we have done so far per state. I hope I've covered everything in respect of this. If there's anything I've not covered, maybe you should, I think I've covered everything. That's where we are okay now. You want me to sit down to take questions? I should sit down? I should stand? No, not for now. That's more like you. Yeah. Right.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Gloria from Channels TV. Can you bring us up to speed, please, with the strike? The NLC strike. They have threatened to resume. And a few days ago, the minister mentioned that the federal government is wading into the situation. As a matter of fact, an intervention plan has actually kicked off. Is this to suggest that that completely failed? Just bring us up to speed what's happening. Thank you.
The Cardinal problem. Gloria, the Cardinal problem. I was on phone with the president of NLC yesterday night. We spoke for more than 30 minutes with myself and just have some quietness. This one in particular, I just want to do alone. Can I go on?
Are they ready? Okay. Honorable Minister, good morning, sir. My name is Festus Keyamo from Ben TV. My question is like two in one. The first one is, we have situations in states, local governments where the same set of people are the beneficiaries of any form of intervention that comes in. They have this network of going through political leaders and some people. So whenever there is anything from the federal government, they are the ones that decide who will benefit. They do it in such a way that others cannot even go to register for it because it's not your turn. Now, talking about database that you're using, is it in synergy with other form of intervention programs that we have in the federal government is giving out? And if there is nothing like that, what are you going to do to clean up that particular mess, as it were? Now, the second question is, it looks a bit hard, but I'm just going to say it, that under your administration and your senior minister, that almost every sector of Nigerian government is going on strike, that you people are even taking it as a pride that you can handle the labor very, very well. What would you say to that? Okay, I thought it was already answered one before. Sorry.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. My name is Timothy Choji. I report for Voice of Nigeria. May we know what plans you have put in place to ensure that this program doesn't go down the drain at the expiration of the tenure of this current administration? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister, I believe one of the core priorities of this administration is the reduction of unemployment, especially among the teeming youths. And I think it's even in that direction you are working so hard on these local government jobs. But as we speak, the same federal government intent on reducing unemployment maintains an embargo on employment in the civil service. there is an embargo on recruitment and replacement. Yet, the government, talks seriously about reducing unemployment. How do you even reconcile that? And when do you think this embargo on recruitment and replacement in the federal civil service will be lifted? Thank you.
Okay. Let's take this first 4 questions. The question regarding the NLC problem with the Kaduna government, like I said, perhaps my colleague, the Minister of Labor and Employment, may give you an update on that, another update. But because I spoke with the NLC president yesterday, Ayuba Wagba, perhaps I should just give an update on that. But every other thing regarding these strikes and all may be given by Dr. Chris Ngige, my colleague. We have heard of the threats to resume the strike. We intervened at some points. We called both parties together. There was actually a memorandum of understanding we reached with the Kaduna State government. We are conciliators. That also answers one question my friend was trying to ask the other time. Why so many strikes under us? Does it mean that we're not doing our job? We are conciliators. We are not the disputants. So don't think the Ministry of Labor is actually the disputant every time you see strikes. That means Ministry of Labor is quarreling with everybody. When the doctors are on strike, the disputants are Ministry of Health and doctors, not Labor. We now come in and call both parties fighting together to our office to say, what is the problem? Let us hear you. When you hear teachers on strike and lecturers and ASU, it is the Ministry of Education and the teachers that are the disputants. So we're hardly disputing with anybody as Ministry of Labor. We're not disputants in any dispute at all. So all these things you are trying to put on our head, I beg you, it's not on our it's not on our head. We are conciliators. And luckily, because I also have an international fellowship degree in arbitration from the UK, even before I was appointed minister, it has helped me to use those skills to try to settle some of these problems. So that is, but for the Kaduna thing, Mr. President has been briefed on it. Mr. President has, intervened and asked the parties to embrace the path of peace and dialogue. We hope that will be adhered to. So we will monitor the process and try to ensure that the memorandum of understanding we signed, that if all parties are faithful to that agreement, then perhaps the NLC will not resume their industrial action in Kaduna State. So our duty now is just to pursue that part of peace and ensure that that memorandum is implemented. So that's as far as I can say. Like I said, I discussed with the president of NLC yesterday night, and he was asking for this kind of intervention to ensure that that agreement is respected. Every other thing regarding those industrial disputes in Gige will update you on that. Someone asked about the fact that the same persons, in some cases, the same persons are the same persons that appear all the time in respect of all federal government programs in some states. Whilst I don't have the full facts regarding that, but I will not also, in my true conscience, dispute your assertion. I will not. Because I know how the political terrain operates now. When you have godfathers everywhere, as they are bringing program of federal government, they hand it over to what they call the leader. Somebody said Ose. He's my brother. They say Ose. When they say Ose is the leader. That is how it operates. Regrettably, I must say regrettably, any program, in fact, they capture it like bandits here in Abuja. Before it leaves Abuja, as it's coming out straight from Villa, new fresh federal government project, they capture it here. and hand it over to their structures. Their structures in the state. So I will not dispute it. I may not have the true figures and the impact of it and whether it is actually true going on in every state and the widespread nature of it. But like I said, what we try to do in this program, that is why perhaps I faced some resistance. All of that has been put behind us, so I don't want to go into that. So I don't want to wake up all those secrets. But we moved on. At the end of the day, we moved on in peace because everybody realized that we needed to serve the Nigerian people. But that was why I designed it that way. We designed it that way to be multi-sectorial. There is no program ever before run by any government before us that you will see people who are not politicians brought into the selection process. I saw some people complaining, some opposition leaders complaining about the special public work. They didn't get enough. They didn't get this. In fact, they were even talking about enough. And the question we asked them was that when you were running your own PDP program, did we even hear anything about it as opposition? Did we hear anything about it? Remember this one they ran, what they call it, You Win and all those programs then. It was just purely political patronage. This one we tried to say, okay, religious leaders, Christian leaders, this and that. We say each senator, whether PDP or senator, bring 30, bring this. So, whether opposition and all that, that was the kind of mind we had, the kind of approach. They can complain about inadequacy now, that we didn't get enough numbers. In the past, did we get as opposition, did we get any at all? Did we even get any? Did we know how? People are complaining now. That's to tell you the nature of President Muhammad Buhari. People are complaining that the school feeding program going on around the country, that school feeding program, is purely in the hands of opposition in many states. The APC in those states don't even know how that school feeding program is being carried out. But what would the president say? The president, if you go to him, will say, but they are Nigerians. It's meant for all Nigerians. That's what the president will tell you. It's meant for all Nigerians. But party members will be complaining, but he's the father of the nation. He's not the father of APC. Before the election of 2019, many of our APC members were mad. They were mad that this program should be in APC so that we can use it to run elections. But the president said no. The president would just laugh. Despite all that, they were threatening we were going to lose election. No. PDP members were using this program to empower their people in the states. APC had nothing to empower. Didn't the president win? He won. He won. He won more people to his side even by that. So for us, for this program, we followed the president's spirit too, to say everybody should get it. So that your assertion may not be correct regarding the special public works program. Go and interview people. In fact, like I said, Pretorius will come to you very soon. We interviewed people on the street, traditional rulers who are not politicians. They all were happy. We went around the country with our press crew. Our press crew. So we are very confident that you may not have that type of accusation so much when it comes to the special public works program. You may go around and ask, but you may not have that type of accusation so much regarding that. So, some say, well, whether this program will not go down the drain like other programs or the sustainability of it, it's a very good program. We'll keep improving. We'll keep improving. From this experience, we know that we may need more time for preparation each time we want to start the program again. We know it's a huge program. It takes a lot of logistics to execute it, a lot of logistics. So we may require more time, especially when we want to execute it to perfection. I may not be here tomorrow again as minister. He may not be here tomorrow as DG again. But we have set a template that other DGs, other ministers, supervising ministers will follow in future. Ensure that it is watertight in terms of the selection process and the execution. So we just set a template. It is the first time we are doing this type of program, like I said. So we needed to be very innovative. We needed to be very innovative. Maybe that's why perhaps there were some delays, and because we wanted to get it right at the end of the day. But I mentioned that as part of a larger package of poverty reduction package that the president approved, and FEC approved, the last few weeks. There are so many components of that package. The president is very serious about the issue of lifting 100 million people out of poverty in the next 10 years. He's very serious about it. So we're looking at different strategies to adopt to do that. Different strategies. And to assure you and answer your question directly that it will not go down the drain, there's a fake approval already for the Special Public Works Program to be an annual event. There's a fake approval. It is the implementation and the money that we'll look for now in that regard. A very interesting question that somebody said, asked whether why there's an embargo on employment and yet we want to fight unemployment. Yeah, the answer is very simple. And I think your question assumes that the kind of employment we want to create is employment in civil service. That's not the idea of employment. All over the world, the employment in public services takes, in fact, accounts for less than 1% of employment in the country. So it will be very short-sighted of us as a government, very myopic and very wrong approach to think that we want to lift people out of poverty and create employment by opening up gaps in the civil service to employ people. How many are we going to employ? For the 33% that we have now, that's so high. The unemployment figures are indefensible. The unemployment figures are very high. 33% is high. It was compounded more by the COVID scourge. The whole world is reeling from the COVID scourge. So we need to react more innovatively to create employment. And for us, if you ask the DG here and the directors who are here, we are working very hard to ensure that we skill up Nigerians. The way to approach unemployment is to skill up the populace. That's the way out. To encourage the macro, small, and medium-scale entrepreneurs. Support their businesses. Ensure that people are self-employed. Skill them up. That's what the Empower is doing. Empower is whether you are a graduate or not, go and learn the skill so that you can be self-employed and feed yourself. Those are employments we are creating, those we are skilling up. People are looking for like the journalists ask, the journalist is looking for this magical letter. You are hereby being employed, you are put on probation for 6 months, after which you will be confirmed. That's what that journalist is looking for. That's not employment we are looking, that's not employment we are fighting for. That's not the kind of employment we want to get to Nigerians. No, not that magical letter from civil service. So the only way to know that we have fought on employment that the next 10 years we print out 100 million letters. No, that's not it. We want to skill up Nigerians. We want to empower them, support small businesses, empower Nigerians, skill them up so that they can be self-employed. That, I think, is the way forward, and that's our concern. That's our whole focus as a government to fight unemployment. Thank you. Yeah, next round of questions.
All right, so I'd like to thank...
You see, it's like when you address the Supreme Court, you say there's nothing more to add. So it's just like our address the Supreme Court, and they were very satisfied. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm grateful.
Okay. So I'd like to thank the Honorable Minister of State, Labor and Employment, Productivity and Employment for coming with the DGNDE and his staff. I'd like to thank esteemed colleagues of the press, and of course my colleagues from the Presidential Communications team. Thank you. See you next week.